Greetings to you today on this Friday, the 16th of August today. Our devotion for the day is entitled Mad World. And you probably, if you're of my age, you just thought of it's a mad, 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 mad world. But this one just got one mad in it, so we're not so mad, I guess. Mad World. It comes from Charles Dickens' work, David Copperfield. You are not to suppose that he hasn't got a longer name if he chose to use it, said my aunt with a loftier air. Babley, Mr. Richard Babley, that's the gentleman's true name. But don't you call him by it, whatever you do. He can't bear his name, so take care, child. You don't call him anything but Mr. Dick. I promised to obey and went upstairs, thinking as I went that if Mr. Dick had been working at his memorial long at the same rate as I had seen him working at it through the open door when I came down, he was probably getting on very well indeed. I found him still driving at it with a long pen and his head almost laid upon the paper. He was so intent upon it that I had ample leisure to observe the large paper kite in a corner, the confusion of bundles of manuscript, the number of pens, and above all, the quantity of ink, which he seemed to have in half-gallon jars by the dozen. Ha! Said Mr. Dick, laying down his pen. How does the world go? I'll tell you what, he added in a lower tone. I shouldn't wish it to be mentioned, but here he beckoned to me and put his lips close to my ear. It's a mad world. Mad as bedlam, boy, said Mr. Dick, taking snuff from a round box on the table and laughing heartily. Some thoughts from Jean Fisher now. The French poet and novelist Victor Hugo wrote, "Strange to say, the luminous world is the invisible world. The luminous world is that which we do not see. Our eyes of flesh see only night." In David Copperfield, Mr. Dick viewed the world with eyes of flesh. He saw only a world that was mad. We do live in a sinful world. The question is, how can we make our eyes see beyond the sinfulness to a world that is bright? The Bible holds the answers. First, trust that God knows what he is doing and believe that he cares for us, Isaiah 43:2. Next, follow the Apostle Paul's advice and focus on the goodness in the world, Philippians 4:8. Remember, every day that Jesus is coming back. 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 16 and 17, and Revelation chapter 22, verses 12 and 13. And rejoice in your salvation. Romans 10:9 promises, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Take heart that God's plan is to crush all evil, Romans 16:20, and God will win in the end. It's true, our world might seem mad at times, but a loving God created it, and he has not changed. As Christians, we can view the world through his eyes and see beyond the madness to its beauty, its goodness, its love. Romans 12:2 says, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The renewing of your mind. That's how we really become transformed. we learn to dwell on other things. Though the scripture passages given here are great ones. They're not quoted per se here, but look them up. Especially that First Thessalonians passage and the Philippians 4:8 passage. These are words of hope. These are words of encouragement to stay focused on Him. Fix your eyes on Christ. Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author of our faith, the perfecter, the finisher of our faith. Everything we need for this new life, He provides, has provided, has purchased for us. The promises of God, and we're back at this subject again, it seems like. If we're going to stay sane, spiritually sane in this mad world we live in, and it's getting madder by the minute, it seems like, and by that, obviously, not angry mad, but crazy, just crazy. Right now, the whole story of Peter getting out and walking on the water, but the moment he takes his eyes off Jesus and looks at the big scary wave coming in his direction, down he goes. That's a lesson for us in this. If we're following Jesus, don't take your eyes off of Him. Because if you turn and look at the craziness of our world, the anger, the bloodshed, the violence, all of those things going on, it can be frightening. And we can begin to not follow Jesus as closely as we should. And we stop following where in the light, as John says in 1 John, walk in the light as He is in the light. Have fellowship with Him, have fellowship with others in that place. And in those kinds of settings, we strengthen ourselves. We keep our focus where it needs to be, where it ought to be, where it must be, if we're going to get through to the finish line in our lives, and especially in our faith. Blessings to you today. Be at peace in this mad world.